right, let's get started. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Mind the Moment's Tuesday morning gathering, brought to you by Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare and Tufts Health Plan. This is a place where we invite experienced mindfulness instructors to speak with us about what mindfulness means to them and to discuss as a community how we can incorporate these practices into our daily lives. I'm Suzanne Rowe, Palacino, and it is a good day when Greg Topakian is here. It is a good day. So good morning to you, Greg.
Well, back at you, Suzanne. But it is a good day. It's a good day for me when I get this opportunity also. So it's wonderful to be here with you all. Even though I can't see you, I feel you. And wonderful to have this chance to practice together and to explore how mindfulness can help us live our lives.
Sounds fantastic. So if anyone is new this morning, a special welcome to you. And let's take a peek. I'm kind of curious if we have any new folks. I'm not sure, but either way, a special welcome to you. And of course, we're happy to have our regulars here. So welcome to the regulars as well. Today, Greg will share a question with us this morning to start us off. And then he'll lead us in at least a 12-minute guided practice. And that will be a combination of guidance as well as some silent time. And then after that, we might have some time for questions. So if you can go to the bottom of your Zoom screen, open up your chat. And at the bottom of that window, you'll see the blue drop-down menu where hosts and panelists is indicated. You can click on that and change that to everyone. And then folks can see your answers to the question and any comments you might have. So with that, Greg, what question do you have for us this morning?
Well, the question is, so here we are, interested in cultivating mindfulness. And so the questions are two, and they're very open-ended. You can just write a few words. How do we start this practice? And what can we do to support our mindfulness practice? So what do you do? What's a good start for you? What can you do to support yourself?
Okay. I just typed that in the chat so folks can chime in. So how do we start and how do we support our practice? Interestingly enough, I typically plan to meditate twice during the day, and many times I just meditate once just because of what's going on in life. But typically I have a particular time that I practice and a spot, and that reminds me to do it every day.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
My longest routine is in the morning, and then periodic short stretches during the day. More so now that I'm mostly retired.
Yeah. That makes complete sense. Work on meditating at 8:30 every day, Rizvana. Yeah, that's good. Start with a commitment to meditate. I start linking my morning meditation practice to brewing my morning coffee. While I meditate while it brews and remind myself with a cup when my practice is done. That's a lovely one. Find my place in my posture, usually in the morning. Yeah, I schedule it and remind myself how much better I feel if I do it. It's like that workout, right? It might not always fit into our day or fit into our mindset, but it definitely, we never regret it when we're done.
We never do.
No. Walking and meditating, very, very good movement practice. I support my practice with fellowship with like-minded others, like this session. Yeah.
Beautiful community. Yeah.
It is so nice to have that as a way to support and, a regular time.
Yeah. Reinforce each other. So these are all beautiful things.
Mm-hmm.
But here's what we're going to talk about today. It's interesting that if you look at a long history of people practicing mindfulness, trying to cultivate a mindful quality of mind, over the last, say, 2,500 years, what's interesting to find out is that they don't start with mindfulness. And so the question is, what do they start with? What practices do they start with to prepare themselves for mindfulness? And what the historical texts suggest, and what's been passed down by word of mouth, is that they start with the practice of generosity. And then, having investigated generosity and that effect on their mind, they then explore ethical living, living a moral life, living a life of integrity. And then, having set the table, so to speak, with those qualities of mind, then they begin their practice of meditation and mindfulness meditation. So that's a whole different way than most of us are introduced to it in the West, where in the West we're looking for sort of, a transcendental experience in some way, or to reduce stress. And these are all equally valid reasons to begin. But it is interesting to note that in the long tradition of mindfulness, where the practice actually begins is generosity and ethical living. And so the question is why? And if we think about it, for a second, it's probably not too hard to come to understand why. If we think about what generosity is all about, an inclination to give to others, to be kind to others, understanding to others, to be willing to share, to be less self-centered, to be more in tune with the needs of others, right? This is all pretty compatible with cultivating a mind that's ready to be mindful. When we think about and when we actually act with generosity, we're creating peace in the mind, joy in the mind. There's actually a feeling of contentment, of connectedness. And what the evidence suggests, both anecdotally, just people reporting, and the science, is that this is like fertilizing the mind to be prepared to be awake, to be aware, to be mindful. So I thought we would spend some time today actually doing some generosity practices. And the whole idea about cultivating any mind state that is resonant with mindfulness is that we first off contemplate the possible benefits of that mind state, in this case, generosity, and begin to understand that, oh yeah, that might be worthy of some time and effort. So then we express an intention. Okay, I'm going to consider this. I'm going to devote some time to it. And then we actually practice. And then we reflect on the practice. What did it actually feel like when I was experimenting with generosity or patience or kindness or compassion or sympathetic joy? Whatever the other mind state is, we understand the benefits, we express an intention to practice, then we practice, and then we reflect on, well, what was it like? What was the quality of the heart and mind? So let's start.
Okay.
So I'll invite you to find a comfortable position for yourself. And so for many of us, that means checking in with the body, adjusting posture, find a way to sit or stand or lie down so that the body feels relaxed and able to settle down, but not so relaxed that you fall asleep. So if possible, to expend a little bit of energy. So maybe you pull your back away from the back of the chair, because we do want to be awake while we practice. Relax, stand awake. And maybe you tap into awareness of breathing for a second or two. Noticing how breathing feels in the body. And to prepare the mind for a generosity practice, usually we begin with a gratitude practice. So I'll invite you now to call up some dimension of your life, some domain of your life for which you feel grateful, appreciative. Maybe it's your physical health, your mental health. Hey, it's not perfect. We all know that. But look, we're all here together, 8:30 on a Tuesday morning, healthy enough to practice together. So maybe that's the domain. Or maybe the domain that you're grateful for is the people around you who, although they may push your buttons at times, you know that they're there for you. Or maybe it's simply gratitude for having a roof over your head and food in the refrigerator, clean water to drink. Or simply the opportunity to have a half an hour to practice mindfulness with people. Those are just suggestions. To call up some domain for which you feel an appreciation. How does that gratitude express itself in your body? How do you feel it? How do you know it? Are there certain people who've helped you to realize these good things, to have them in your life? Are there some people you're particularly thankful to? How do you express that to them? Thankful for good friends, coffee in the morning, a shower, whatever it is. Gratitude and generosity are complementary practices. Breathing in, we breathe in the gratitude. And then breathing out, we explore the encouragement of generosity. So for the generosity practice, I'll invite you to call up some recent episodes in your life where you felt an initial impulse to offer something to someone. Maybe it was a physical gift or cash, but just as important, if not more so, maybe it was your time or your undivided attention to them, your kindness to them. So call up a recent episode where you felt the impulse. How did you know it? How did you recognize that impulse? And then, if you acted on that impulse and did act with generosity, what the actual action felt like in the body and mind. And then we'll also consider if you didn't act on it for whatever reason, what did that feel like in the body and mind? And then after the event, what were the after effects of either acting with generosity, speaking with generosity, or not? So I'll invite you first to call up a recent episode where you did act on the impulse. You did follow through. You gave someone a book. That's a very important book to you. Or even though you were pressed for time, you really turned to the person and listened to them. How did you recognize that initial impulse to give, to be generous? And while you were acting with generosity, what did that feel like? And after it was over, a few minutes or later in the day, and you remembered that incident, your act of giving something back, was there contentment in the mind and body and heart? Can we take that in? And now, being as we're all ordinary human beings, not always acting in generous ways, I'll invite you to call up another incident where you felt an impulse, you considered it, offer something, but maybe you didn't quite have enough time, or maybe the ask was more than you felt that you could offer without triggering feelings of not having enough yourself or insecurity or whatnot, and you chose not to. What did that feel like? And what were the after effects? Now, let me be clear. The intention is not for us to beat ourselves up. I'm an awful person, I'm stingy, I'm selfish. That's not the point here. But in the spirit of scientific inquiry, which is part of what mindfulness is about, it is to notice how our speech and actions actually affect us. And if certain speech and actions lead to a feeling of disappointment, discontent, then we should learn from that. Okay, and so here's a third exercise related to that. I'd like you to draw up in your mind to anticipate a future episode in your life where the initial impulse will be to give something to another. Choose something that's quite doable for you. So not giving your house away to somebody or not dedicating 6 hours of your day to listen to someone, but maybe making a charitable contribution to a cause you believe in, or maybe cooking a meal for someone who just needs a little support in this moment. Or maybe rather than busying oneself with our own tasks, to actually turn and listen. How can you prepare yourself for that moment? Perhaps a reminder of all the things you're grateful for already. Perhaps a reminder of the after effects of acting with generosity. And in this episode in your mind, actually acting with generosity, going for it, taking the chance. What signals does your body give? How do you know when you're right at that edge where you feel comfortable in giving, and then maybe it's pushing your boundaries just a little bit? Expanding, growing. And I'll count backwards from 3. And when I get to 1, I'll invite you to reopen your eyes and come back to the group. 3, 2, 1.
Thank you so much, Greg.
Pleasure.
It really was an interesting practice, and I'm sure a little different for folks, where we're putting ourselves in those positions where we see what comes up in our body. as we are in those different mindsets. So
Yeah. What does it feel like? Yeah. Is there more joy, or do we get nervous? I'm not giving enough, or I'm not comfortable with it. Okay, can we be kind to ourselves if that's what comes up, right? So it's not about judging or criticizing, but it is about expanding our boundaries, right? With, and creating a little bit more space um, for connecting with others, not being as self-centered, not being as worried, small steps at a time, right?
and interestingly enough, when we do act on that generosity, it comes back to us. It comes back to provide that contentment or that feeling of goodwill that we are able to feel in our own minds and bodies. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. Uh, Because so much of our mindfulness practice is that how we perceive the world can begin to change. So if we start putting into the world actions of giving, it's possible that our minds start evolving in a way that we actually think the world will give back, and that promotes a feeling of safety. And look, the world's a tough place. We all know that, but can we carry ourselves in where we're not prejudging it to be tough and difficult anyways. We're moderating that. There are other good people out there. There are people out there that will give to us in our times of need.
and you even look at, I totally agree. You look at the simple ways that we can be generous, letting someone in traffic, and how it does multiply, how our generosity builds and moves to other people, and where other people will do the same thing. It multiplies for sure.
What do you notice in your body? What do you notice in your heart and mind?
Yeah. Yeah, it is a feeling of warmth and connection. And Rizvana's mentioned here, when I cannot give, I feel nervous. When I give freely, I feel goodwill.
Yeah.
So true. So we're grateful for this practice this morning, Greg, and for this inquiry to remind us the benefits of starting out in this way, and how it's a circular practice, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. When we're mindful, we notice the benefits, practicing generosity. And when we're grateful and generous, we prepare the mind to be more awake. Yeah.
Very
Beautiful.
much so. Yes. Well, thank you again for joining us and for your words of wisdom this morning.
And to all, take care. Yes.
And thank you to everyone else for joining, as always. And hope to see you back here again, Greg. And for everyone else, yes, hope to see you back here. We'll be back here tomorrow morning at 8:30.
All right.
So enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you soon.
Be well.
Be well. Bye-bye.